All right, I think we're live. So welcome everyone to another Matt Maran Motoring live stream here on the Matt Maran Motoring YouTube channel. Hope you're all having a great Sunday here. Thanks so much for stopping by, and looking forward to chatting cars with you guys there this evening. So, like all the other usual live streams, we're going to go for about 2 hours or so. I'll give priority answering to anyone who does a super chat or a super thanks, as well as anyone who's a member here on the channel. They always get that priority answering. If you'd also like that, there's a link in the description to get that. And before we get into the questions, I first also want to mention that I will probably do a Saturday live stream next week just to avoid Super Bowl clashes and and having to worry about competing with that. So I'll have to check, but I'm pretty sure that's probably what I'll end up doing as a Saturday for next week, just so you guys know. But anyway, and I also last week we talked about screen sharing potentially. We're talking about if people have questions about cars that I could potentially even like look up, or if I'm talking about a vehicle on the market or something, talking about various things. I now believe I know how to screen share and do that, and we can actually look at stuff other than me talking for 2 hours. So could be a fun little addition here. Baby steps, I know, compared to all the pro streamers out there, but I'm trying. And so just keep in mind, if that's something you guys are interested in, let me know if there's something you want me to look into on screen here, and I can actually do that now here. So anyway, but happy to see Brian, Kevin, Harsha, Grand, Anthony, B. Mitchell, Kyle, Wheatman, Cars, Nicholas, Michelle, Jazz, Dragon Car Guy, Raphael, and Luke, Shane. Yeah, thanks so much for stopping by, everyone here. And so I see everyone just saying hi. Harsher says, hello, Matt. Big news this week is that Forza Horizon 5 is coming to PS5 this spring. Next gen PlayStation, I am getting so because they have both Forza and Gran Turismo. That's sweet. I didn't realize. Thanks for letting me know about that. Yeah, I had no clue. Sorry, I got to silence all my stuff as my alerts are going off here. But yeah, that's really, really cool. Because then, yeah, I'd probably be in the same camp, because I love Gran Turismo and also love Forza. I haven't played either of them in years, but yeah, I'd probably go PS5 too in that case. That's awesome. And Gran says, I had to cancel my plans tonight due to bad roads. How's everyone doing tonight? Well, sorry you weren't able to hang with your friends or whatever, but I'm sure some places probably still have bad weather. Thankfully, it's been pretty nice here, but I know, I'm sure the snowier parts, it just does not let up until actual spring, I'm sure. But hope everyone else is doing well here. And let me see. B. Mitchell says, missed last week as I was heading home from the Arizona collector car auctions. Yes, there's more than just Barrett Jackson. I think it's almost warmer up in MSP area than Phoenix was. That's surprising. What's going on in Phoenix? That's strange. But happy to have you here, B. Mitchell. Hope you're doing well. And let me see. Wheatman says it's rainy in Northern California. Sounds about right, I'm sure, for especially this time of year. And Vishal says, how's it going, Matt? Went to an Indian buffet with a couple of buddies and stuffed ourselves with food today. The vehicle of choice was my friend's 23 540i, comfy car with a full stomach. That's, yeah, it's definitely what you want with a full stomach. That's awesome. Sounds like a good time. And yeah, thanks for stopping by. And let me see. Luke says, I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee this evening on my way to Atlanta for tomorrow morning. 55 degrees here feels nice. I'm sure. Yeah. I think this week it's supposed to get up to like 60 something here in Pittsburgh. It's so bipolar around here in the wintertime where, like a week or two ago, it was like negative, and now it's going to be 60. So it's always a roller coaster. And B. Mitchell also says, I had a fairly fresh 24 Kona as a rental in Arizona. It wasn't the penalty box I was expecting, but definitely had its quirks. Damn good fuel mileage, though. Got 35 mpg, working it hard. Nice. And the 24, I can't remember, is the new generation labeled as 24 or 25? I can't remember whether you actually have the new gen one or the last year of the old. But yeah, Konas are nice little cars, especially that new gen, if that's the one you had. I mean, they've come a long way. They're finally having a usable back seat now, and I think they have cool looks and all that. They did a good job on it. And Let me see. I'm going to try and do as many of the non-member questions too as I can here until I start getting behind, then we'll catch up. But Still Buster says, "Hey Matt, what are your early impressions on the new tires for the Mach-E? My wife's Subaru Ascent needs new tires soon and was looking for recommendations." So the new tires for the Mach-E, they've been pretty good. Yeah, they are the Bridgestone Turanza EV tire. So it might not be super helpful for you with an Ascent, but it's been a good tire. Even Beth was driving in some light snow and it was handling that fine. And yeah, I mean, and honestly, the thing that I appreciate is there is definitely more grip than the old Michelins. And it doesn't seem like there's that much of a range hit. It's hard to say in the wintertime because the wintertime is always kind of, just detrimental to range, obviously, in EVs. But it seems like efficiency is mostly the same, even with the better grip, which seems almost kind of unlikely or impossible, but that's been the experience so far. We'll see once we get up to the regular normal temperatures in the spring and the summer here, when I'm kind of comparing apples to apples a little bit more to see, what kind of efficiency I'm getting out of them. But they're really good. They're really nice tires so far. Knock on wood, they've treated us very well. And yeah, I mean, Bridgestone stuff elsewhere. I mean, for other vehicles, whenever I review them on other, vehicles, as for car reviews, Bridgestone typically doesn't have the best tires that I'm super impressed with. Oftentimes, usually those crowns are reserved for primarily the Michelin, Pilot Sport. Also, I was really impressed with the Continental with their new All Seas. There's some really good tires. I don't know if I consider Bridgestone to be the best, but in the case of the Mach-E, I think it is a very nice blend of having some extra grip and still having very good wear so far. We'll see. I mean, these tires hopefully will at least last us till the end of this lease period here for the Mach-E, which we only have at this point like a year and 5 months or so to go until we'll be done with that car. But it's doing well. I mean, as far as recommendations for an Ascent, I mean, Goodyear makes pretty good tires. That's kind of one of the more like, middle ground price wise. I think, when I research tires, I go to Tire Rack. Tire Rack is really good. And it might sound like an ad, but it's not. I wish they would actually work with me. I've tried in the past, they won't, but they just have a lot of reviews from actual buyers. They do really good tests on their own, really comparing things apples to apples, and they know tires. So like, usually that's where I do almost all of my tire research whenever I'm looking at tires and considering tires. That's where I go. So hopefully that at least sends you in the right direction a little bit, gives you a little bit of help if you haven't already looked on Tire Rack. But yeah, anyway, let me know if you have any follow-up questions. Always happy to help. Ford Enthusiast says, "Hey Matt, hope you're doing well. My question to get a Mach-E continues, but now also looking at a Hyundai Ioniq 5. I really like the updates and changes they made. They made some great changes, I know, and the best one, in my opinion, being that rear wiper finally, and the wireless CarPlay. It's great to finally have that too. Ioniq 5 is great. I mean, and I think I said this back when we got the Mach-E, but like, if I really like the Mach-E, I think for me it was a kind of a toss up between those two. Beth definitely preferred the Mach-E over the Ioniq 5, and it was the car that she's driving 95% of the time. So like, I give her full authority to do whatever she wants as far as deciding on what she wants to be driving in all the time. But if it were me, I probably would have gone Ioniq 5. I don't know. It's, again, the Mach-E is still a really good car and it's treated us very well. So I can't complain, but I really love the styling of the Ioniq 5. Didn't love the Mach-E styling. It's fine now, but I love Ioniq 5 still. So I'm probably slightly in Ioniq 5 camp, especially if you do road trips. I mean, it's just way faster with the charge rate. So that alone, is huge for us. We've road tripped it like twice so far, and both trips haven't been super long. So, it's not a big issue for us, but if you do care about that, obviously Ioniq 5 just wipes the floor with Mach-E from a charging standpoint. But anyway, let me see here. Jordan, thank you so much for the first super chat of the night. He says, "Does the Tesla Summon app have a timed pickup function? I'm here. Find me at this time in front of the building." I have no clue. I've never used it before. Maybe I think yeah, Harsha, thanks for weighing in there. I think he has one, but I have no clue any of that. So happy you're able to get an answer there from Harsha. And thanks for chiming in there. And thank you again, Jordan, for the super chat. And let me see here. Cara says the chat function is behaving unusually for me because I have subscribed with all 3 of my channels. It will finally allow me to comment from my main channel on my PC again, but it shows the wrong one. That's weird. I don't know if there's a YouTube bug. I haven't changed anything settings wise, so I'm not sure why that would be doing that. Because yeah, everything seems to be normal as far as what I can see here. But let me know. Or maybe try and file like a bug report with YouTube or something and see if maybe there's something there they can help you with. Because I'm all out of ideas here, but sorry about that. And Luke says, I don't want to be too political, but I ordered my Maverick in October and it says I should get it by February 25th to March 3rd. Will I get charged a tariff? I mean, no one knows what's going to happen. We don't know. Are the tariffs still going to be around by that point? Are they even going to actually go into effect on Tuesday at 12:01 a.m. or not? It's, like anything, it's just this year is just impossible to predict anything, to bank on anything, to count on anything, to make any kind of predictions about anything. The only thing I will say, other than the unknown of whether or not the tariff is actually happening, but also will dealers use this as an opportunistic time to price gouge again, like they did with COVID, and like they really played up the supply, crunches and charged markups. There's a lot of that. During COVID, like dealers had record profits. I mean, I know car dealers that were like, those were the best years of my business. They fully capitalized on that. And the second that you give someone an excuse, this is the same thing we saw with inflation. Like inflation happened, but then companies also price gouged on top of that to make it even worse and say, oh, sorry, it's inflation. Whenever these companies have something to blame for high prices, they try and tack on their own cut on top of that. So I'm envisioning especially if the tariff happens, regardless of how detrimental the tariff itself actually even is, which again, we will wait and see. But regardless of what that reality is, I guarantee you dealers are going to try and play it up to try and squeeze extra money out of people. So I would definitely prepare yourself mentally for them to give you a runaround. I would definitely prepare yourself for them trying to act like Mavericks are going to be scarce in the future, because that is one of the vehicles built in Mexico. And if the tariffs actually happen, there's not going to be any more Mavericks anymore. Like these car companies have said they will stop production lines, like full stop, and just stop building because they can't bring them in with the 25% tariff. No one's going to buy them. And so they're just going to stop and try and shift things around. I think some companies have, discussed pulling levers to try and, maybe increase the production they do have in the States and try and, stop the bleeding a little bit. But, anyway, it's just, dealers are going to try and capitalize on that. And for some of it might be for good reason. If they actually cannot get any more Mavericks and all of a sudden your car is worth another 5 to 10 grand in their mind, just be prepared for that. And it really is crappy because I know you've been waiting a while for that. And, it's just the situation that we're in these days in this country. So I'll keep my fingers crossed for you and for the rest of the world that cooler heads prevail and this stuff gets settled quickly. But we will see what happens. But yeah, that I couldn't imagine if I was waiting forever for a car order and it got screwed up by this. I would be so pissed. So I really feel sorry for you, Luke. Best of luck. Let's hope that things get chilled out by the end of this month. Anyway, and Raphael says, went to my aunt's 95th birthday, 6 kids, 14 grandkids, 27 great grandkids, 3 great great grandkids. Wow, that is wild. And man, kudos to her on a life well lived. Yeah, all the little emojis. That's awesome. Thanks everyone for wishing her a happy 95th birthday. That is awesome. I love talking to people like that, especially the ones that still are very mentally sharp and stuff, because it's just like the stories, the life they've lived, and the fact that, they've also, lived a life that's so positive that they have, a lot of grandkids and great grandkids. And not only do they have them, but they're all around, I'm assuming, and had a great big party. And that's a huge testament in and of itself, and yeah, that's incredible. So kudos to her. Sounds like you've got some good genetics there. If she made it to 95, hopefully that bodes well for you and the rest of your family. And that's awesome. But yeah, man, people like that, I love talking with them. It's just all the history they've witnessed and experienced. It's just, man, what a wild ride they've been on. And thanks for sharing, Raphael. And let me see, Jordan, thank you so much for another super chat. It says, will tariffs affect the U.S. The used car market? Sorry, yeah, the used car market. Absolutely. Again, it all comes down to how long they last, right? If they evaporate in a week or so, that's probably not going to be enough to really screw up supply chains a whole lot. But as we saw with COVID, when you screw things up for even a couple of months, like that is a drastic domino effect. And that obviously boosts the used car market. I mean, I was even contemplating doing a video. It's just hard because, again, the tariffs could evaporate tomorrow if someone makes a phone call and agrees to something, then this all gets dropped. So it's not something I'm going to do a video on, but all the vehicles, I mean, you can Google it for yourself. Look at everything that's built in Mexico. Look at everything that's built in Canada that gets brought in. Look at the vehicles that also have high part content from Mexico, Canada, or China, even for that matter, but especially Mexico and Canada. Even if it's just those parts coming in, or even part of those parts, or a percentage of those parts come from, or the engine comes from this place, or the transmission. Like Ford is pretty well protected, but they build engines in Windsor, Ontario. So it won't maybe be 25% of that cost of the vehicle goes up altogether, but 25%, the engine gets 25% more expensive. So that'll increase things a little bit. But so anyway, as far as used cars and values, look at stuff that's built in those places that may dry up with its supply of new, that's going to shove people into the used market instead. Again, just literally take the COVID playbook, and that same exact thing we could see play out if this actually is a long-term trade war that we have. Then you're going to want to, not either buy those things now before they skyrocket in value. If you have one of those things, hold on to it. It's probably going to go up in value, and this might be a good time to sell once we kind of find a peak to this demand, if this really does get dragged on for a long while. I mean, the Mach-E gets built in Mexico, and the Mach-E, the value of that thing just collapsed. I mean, it was a 50 grand car 2.5 years ago, and now trade-in value ranges from $20,000 to $25,000, and it's got 15,000 miles on it. And so right now, since it's a lease, it's the Ford options plan, which is like a balloon finance thing that's set up like a lease, where I can walk away at the end of it and I don't have to take on that negative equity or whatever. So I don't really care what happens with the Mach-E either way, because we'll probably walk away from it no matter what. But there's a chance that car could end up starting to go up in value again, because if you can't get any new Mach-E's, they sold over 50,000 of them last year, so they're fairly popular, and people want them and they can't get them. And yes, even if the tax credit goes away, there's still going to be a lot of these used Mach-E's, and people are still going to want them, even if they don't have a tax credit. That could increase the value of those. So in our case, it might actually benefit us. But you also have to be wary. If you want one of those cars that's coming from these places, it's going to be it could be more of a challenge. So absolutely will affect the used car market. Same thing as COVID. Again, that just comes down to how long it lasts. Because they have said, like economists have said, we can weather this for a little bit of time. A week to couple of weeks, maybe before we really start to have this really again hit inventories badly and all that. But again, even if it isn't this long-term thing, just if people are talking about it, dealers are going to try and add on inflation just because it's in the news and people are worried about it. Honestly, like even I've been kind of tossing around the idea of getting another vehicle myself, a little backup electric thing, since they're all dirt cheap right now, just to run to the airport and back with, and just be a backup car for when I don't have a press vehicle, since I don't have the Bullet anymore. And I had one of the dealers this week, which I actually said yes to a deal this week, and then the dealer screwed it up. I was going to actually say yes and get a car this week, and I had agreed to their terms, and then they screwed it up. But one of the other dealers, they tried to do the whole like, well, like tax credit's going away, this price is only going to go up, like take it or leave it for our higher price. And I'm like, I'm just going to leave it. I don't need this car. So like, you're not going to strong arm me into like, fear mongering me with like, oh no, this thing's going to be like more expensive forever. And like, but this is something they know people are aware of. And so they're going to start saying, oh, well, and there's some truth to that, but they're really trying to lean into that to make the sale. And so you're going to see a lot of that as well too, where they're like, wow, you heard about how they shut down that plant in Mexico, right? Well, can't get any more of these, so let's jack the price up. Even if it was only a shutdown for a week or something, they'll be like, well, there's going to be a bad backlog and all this, even if there might not be, and just kind of spin a yarn for people just to, again, try and get them to pay more, because that's what dealers are so good at doing. So yeah, absolutely. Sorry for the long-winded response, but I absolutely see that affecting the used market if it does allow itself to last longer. And two, thanks so much for stopping by and for being a member for 32 months now. He says, see what happens when you let two out. Crazy things happen. By the way, I think the driver knew what was going on, scared him shitless. Yeah, so two sent me a spy video, two little spy videos of something with a bunch of like baggy black camo on it, but it was an EV because it had a charge port in the front fender, and it kind of looked like Mach-E shape. So he was like, maybe this is next gen Mach-E, which I don't think we've heard anything about. And probably, I wasn't expecting, especially with the 2025 changes we had this year, I didn't expect anything new from Mach-E for another year or two, but maybe that's something that's cooking. But then he was like, it actually could be that new Acura RSX, which probably makes a little bit more sense. But yeah, those development drivers, they do not want people taking pictures and videos. So the second that they see that, a lot of them will do like evasive maneuvers and really try and shake, the photographer. I mean, I was on pretty good terms and pretty friendly with a professional spy photographer in Detroit, and I was buying some spy photos off of him for a while. And he was telling me all kinds of stories about, the lengths that he goes to and the lengths that they go to like ditch him and all that kind of stuff. It's definitely sounds like a very fun career in some ways. So you got a little sample of that too. And yeah, thanks so much for sharing that. And I will share that all with you guys next week in next week's weekly update. You can also speculate on what it is. He also shared them in the Discord. So if you're in the Discord server, those of you who are members, check that out. I think he posted them in there. You can speculate in there as well and see what you guys think. I'm curious to hear what you guys think it might be. Yeah, happy that two was out of the basement to take those videos. And Great Admiral Thrawn, thank you so much for gifting a membership. I really appreciate the generosity, and happy to see that Mez was able to be a member here as a result. And so thanks so much for your generosity. Anyway, I'm going to start going to member comments so we don't get too far behind here. But let me see. So Kara says, I'm only able to comment about from my membership Cars channel from my phone as I am now. Otherwise, it always displays another channel in the chat. YouTube says sign in as Cars. Weird. That is strange. Goth Rocker says snowing here in Northeast PA tonight. Wow, nice. Yeah. No snow around here. It's actually like 40 degrees. It's kind of nice. And Jazz says, did you tell your daughter about Puxatawny Phil the groundhog? Yeah, we watched the little video today of them pulling him out of the little tree trunk thing or whatever. And yeah, 6 more weeks of winter, right? It's all good. It's like I said, it's pretty mild around here. Hopefully it's not too bad for the rest of the country. And Dylan has given us an update here on last week. He said he was going to check out a GLI that he was thinking about buying. And he says, how's it going, dude? That GLI didn't pan out. Lots of rodent damage. But I did pick up a 23 Kia Forte GT in its place, which has been great so far. I had a 2017 Elantra Sport, so it's kind of nostalgic. Nice. That's awesome. Forte GT, I'm impressed you tracked one down. Those are pretty rare. I'm not sure if you got the manual or the dual clutch, but I mean, both are pretty rare. I mean, I did a review of one whenever they first came out for that generation, and I asked for another one whenever they did a little refresh, a couple of years ago, and never had any luck getting one. They never had one in the fleet. But Forte GT is a great little car. I totally agree. It's so much car for the money. I mean, you got like cooled seats, at least in the top, DCT version. You got like really nice creature comforts, great looks, I always thought. Really nice little car. So glad to be able to pick that up, and that worked out okay for you. I hope you enjoy it. Hope it treats you well, and congrats on the new car. It's always fun too. Um, and Harsha says Tesla in their latest earnings call told they're in talks with licensing their full self-driving. This would be nice as full self-driving makes traffic jams so much more bearable. Mustang with FSD or GT86 with FSD would be great. I'm glad that it like at least makes the traffic jams better for you. I'm curious if it's ever done anything sketchy in your experience, because I mean I've seen all the horror stories and crazy highlight reels, I guess, of the madness that full self-driving has done. They said that on their earnings call. I have a hard time believing that personally. I yeah, I mean, I don't, maybe I'm out of the loop here, but I am pretty certain that most car companies do not take full self-driving seriously. I think they know it's got a lot of baggage because of all the, lawsuits against it, all the just over promising and under delivering all the time on it. I can't imagine a single car company actually wanting it. Maybe for free for some of the companies, but like certainly not licensing and paying some huge licensing fee for it. Because you look at every car company out there that is trying to do things. I mean, even like Nissan. I mean, Nissan is 12 to 14 months away from bankruptcy if this merger doesn't go through, and even they have ProPilot Assist 2.1 or whatever it's called that does attempt actual hands-free driving. And so I mean, even they have their own system that wouldn't even like Nissan wouldn't even be interested in full self-driving is what I'm trying to say here. So like I'm struggling to, and other companies have other partnerships with other brands to like, pull from them if they wanted to. I don't know. To me, that sounded like an attempt to boost the stock price or try and make things seem better than they are, in light of, the downturn in sales and stuff. We'll see. Maybe they will come out and announce some kind of licensing deal, but I personally don't buy that myself. And let me see. Victor asked, "What car replaced the Mustang?" Nothing. We are a one-car household currently, just the wife's Mach-E, and that's it. And B. Mitchell said this Kona had the dual screens. I think they had dual screens for the for the last generation as well, especially in the later years. So it just didn't have the pretend light bar in the front or not would be the way to know if you have the new one, among other things. But that's the one way to know. And Vishal says, we're into the 60s and 70s here in Raleigh since last week. It was below freezing with ice and snow the week before. Funny how the weather works. Yep, it is insane. It just keeps getting crazier. And Sergio is asking opinion on the 26 Passport. It seems promising. I don't love the way they did the packaging of the trims, because if you want a fully loaded one, you have to get the Trail Sport thing, which I think is silly to force someone who wants a luxurious Passport to have orange tow hooks. Just seems like, why is there not a regular, platinum trim or whatever Honda wants to call it, touring or something? That just seems like a strange exclusion. I haven't driven it, I haven't even sat in it. I have no clue, but I'm sure if it's just a shortened version of the new Pilot, should be fine. I'm glad they did at least, improve the interior a little bit. So should be good. I'm curious to try it out here at some point here, hopefully in the next, 6 months or so. Grant says it's supposed to be cold and snowy here all week in South Central Montana. Sounds about right. And Montana, though, is beautiful this time of year. I remember, I think, when was it? It was like 2017, maybe 2018. Went to Montana around this time of year. And it was so beautiful. So yeah, I'd love to go back there sometime soon. And Danny, thanks for stopping by. Says, hello, I've got here rare spots this week: Chevy Sprint and a third-gen Camry Coupe. Always love to be here. Thanks for stopping by. And yeah, those are some good spots. You're really good at spotting those oddballs. That's awesome. And Van Allen Garage says, have you seen the YouTube channel Car Coach Reports? They have an inside look into the car industry, her and her husband. I am aware of Car Coach Reports. And yeah, I'm just going to leave that one. I'm gonna just plead the fifth on that one. But I have, yep, I have. I'm pretty sure we're talking about the same channel here. If it's Lauren Fixes, I believe. Yeah, I've shared car rides with her, chatted with her many times, come across her on plenty of events, and she's always been nice to me. But yeah, I'll leave that one at that. But Michelle says our 21 Highlander has Bridgestone tires. Never really cared for them. They're due to be replaced this year, though. Any wrecks? Don't want to get the most expensive tires and not the cheapest either. Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, yeah, I'd say. See, I don't really shop for regular like crossover tires. Like I'm always shopping like sporty tires. So when it comes to non-sporty stuff, I'm not super plugged in. So I mean, again, I just go on Tire Rack and see what's appealing to you from a price point standpoint. Again, see what the ratings are for the various metrics, and how important snow performance is, for example, and how important everything else is, and kind of weigh that out for yourself. But I mean, yeah, it's been so long. It's like that. Like one of the like cheaper tires that I had really good luck with in the past was Sumitomo. They had some really good stuff. I for the Legacy GT Spec B. I mean, at this point, we're talking 15 years ago, so I have no clue if their quality is what it used to be. But I mean, I ran through two sets of those tires. The Sumitomo, it was like I think called the HTRZ or something, I don't know, but it was a sporty like sports sedan tire, summer tire, and fantastic tires for a fraction of the cost of the Bridgestones that came on that car from the factory, actually, the Potenzas or whatever. And so might be worth checking out. Again, I cannot vouch for them because I have no experience in the past 15 years of them, but yeah, it's going to come down to just, there's specials that get run from time to time. So what is the best value is always kind of changing on that stuff. So it's hard to say. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't have any recommendations unless it's a sporty tire. I'm really out of the loop, sadly. I wish I could help more. I apologize. And let me see. Rafi says, happy Sunday. Thanks for stopping by, Rafi. And let me see here. Luco says, my plan B vehicle is between a 25 Camry XLE or Crown Signia if I get charged the tariff. Nice. Both are great backup vehicles as well. I love Crown Signia. You'll see my thoughts on that in tomorrow's My Week With video I'll be posting about the Crown Signia. But I love that thing. It's either that or CX-70. One of those two would be my pick if I was shopping for a mid-sized SUV or crossover. They're both really good, but I do love Crown Signia. It's definitely the fuel economy champ of the two, for sure. Camry is so solid, and they deserve all the success with the new Camry because they did such a good job on it. So both are great Plan Bs, very solid there. And let me see. Luke says, hoping it boosts the value of my S550 Mustang, $2 or $3 grand, so I can sell it for what I got it for 6 years ago. Well, I mean, I don't think Mustangs will be affected because, those are built in Michigan, so that should be unaffected. I think, is the 5.0 maybe built in Windsor? Maybe that would boost the price a tiny bit, but I think they may scale back production of S550 if they do get a lot of components from Canada, which I could see, them certainly doing. I don't remember, part content makeup for all these things as far as, how each one's going to be affected differently. But I wouldn't expect anything that's built in the States, even if they have a lot of foreign parts content, probably will be hit a little bit less. Could go up still, but I wouldn't expect S550 to go up. I think S550s though have really hopefully kind of reached a point where they're not going to drop off much more for the short term, just because again, everyone is so burned out on the high prices of S650, and that's not getting any better anytime soon. So like, I still think S550s are such a fantastic value, and I really can't see any reason to go for an S650 in any form. You want a Tremec, fine, get the Mach 1. If you want, the 500 horsepower of the Dark Horse, throw, the intake on your S550 and get the same power. It's just like there's just, I just don't see any reason to do it, honestly. S550 is where it's at. And let me see here. Jordan, thanks so much for being a member for 16 months now. He says, last year I asked if AI could be used to create the perfect car for humans. Now it's revealed the Renault used AI for the Volante. Is that the first step? Absolutely. I think that is kind of, optimizing cars, and, especially when you give it a certain task, like they were able to say for AI, like, hey, find ways to get rid of excess material. Like, that's a very pointed question, a good prompt that it can do, versus saying, hey, please make us, a perfect car, which again, there is no perfect car for everyone. So I think but yeah, I think those types of things are absolutely, I mean, we've seen so many advances in technology, whether it's doing rapid prototyping of parts thanks to 3D printing, and now we have AI that can kind of even cut out some of that extra waste and extra, trial and error period, and just kind of cut to the chase for some of that stuff. Absolutely. I think that's the kind of thing you're going to see a lot more of. And I think that'll be really helpful, because there might be some things that genuinely, like, some of these engineers maybe hadn't thought of. Or just they arrive at those conclusions faster thanks to, that AI. So I think that'll be one of the good uses of AI for sure, and be interesting to see how that does affect the car industry going forward. And Kyle, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships. I really appreciate the support every week, Kyle. Hope you're doing well, and yeah, thanks so much. I'm also here. I think next month we're going to be coming up on 3 years for some of these members, so I'm going to have to do a new member badge, because right now the highest it goes is the 2+ years, and Kyle is one of those, and gonna have to do a new one here for really, I gotta find a new color. If anyone has any colors they'd like for the 3-year badge, let me know, because I'm kind of out of ideas on that, but I definitely want to make sure that it's special and really stands out. So I gotta find a way to do that here. But yeah, thank you so much again, Kyle. And let me see here. Back to the other questions. Joe says, fun daily SUV, sporty / practical for under 50 grand, 70, 100 grand. Whew, that's kind of tough. Let me think. It's not going to be the best recommendations off the top of my head. This kind of thing usually takes me a little bit more time. But trying to think. So under 50, fun daily SUV. I'm trying to think. I think sorry, it's going to take me a minute, because there's so many options in the segments as far as, what is sporty enough to qualify for a fun daily SUV. I mean, can you get a CX-70 under 50? If so, I'd say CX-70, CX-90, any of those. It's just because it's, a turbo inline-6 rear-wheel drive based platform. I really love the Mazdas, and they're so premium feeling, just so much good stuff there. So whether you're talking about the lower trims, which still give you all that goodness under 50, or you're talking about the top, Turbo S versions, which give you even more performance, and come in, I think comfortably in the mid 50s, so well under that 70 grand cap, but still was really solid even at that price point. And then, 70, I feel like there's really not a whole lot of middle ground. It's like you're either talking about like stuff that's 50, 60, or you're up, almost at 100 grand. I'm trying to think of other stuff. RDX, I really love RDX. That's another great one. Again, right under or around 50 grand. I've always loved RDX. It's always one of my favorite ones. And honestly, if I wanted a fun SUV around that price point new, it'd probably either be RDX or GV70. Those are both really fantastic, but I think RDX actually handles better than GV70. GV70 is a little bit of a nicer interior in my opinion, but probably be one of those. Also, another fun one, I haven't posted this review yet, so it's a little bit of a spoiler, but the Genesis GV80 Coupe with the E supercharger just did filmed a review of that recently. And that one, I can't remember. I think that one was maybe, I think it was 75 or something. So I'm not holding to these limits super well, but that I loved that thing. Again, spoiling the video, but really, really good. So that would honestly, now looking at all the other competitors to that, it gives you more car for less money and is a really nice bargain. So I'd probably go GV80 coupe for that, 70 grand ish bracket. Once we're at 100 grand, I don't review a whole lot of stuff kind of up in that level. But I'd probably have to say, one of the top ones is, like the X5, whether we're talking like the M50i version, because X5M is more expensive. But if we're talking 100, yeah, the sportier non full blown M X5 is probably one of my top ones in that segment. Again, I'm trying to think of other stuff. Because, yeah, I feel like the Audi is also very nice, but I think the BMW is a little bit sportier in most cases. And, yeah, I would not take the Mercedes in that segment. So, yeah, I'd say that's probably where I land. Again, probably not the best answers. And if I had a whole list and was able to do some actual research a little bit more, I'd probably have a better, well thought out answer for you. But that's probably what I'd say right now off the bat is those ones, RDX, CX70, 90, GV80, coupe, and the X5s, all solid vehicles. And let me see. B. Mitchell said unethical mega dealers made a killing during COVID. The few MA and PA local dealerships struggled. The few mom and pop local dealerships struggled. They absolutely did. You're right. And it's the ones that just weren't willing to do price gouging, and it's sad. I mean, thankfully some of them did do better, at least some of the mega ones that were at least ethical. Like we got our Mach-E from a really big dealer group in Ohio, but I talked to the owner of the dealership and he's like, we just do volume. And he's like, we do more volume because we're doing MSRP deals. Again, this was back whenever getting a Mach-E at MSRP was almost impossible. He's like, we do it at MSRP. We do way more of them. And we have happy customers that aren't pissed off when they walk out the door like everyone else, And so, I think that there's ethical dealers are still very few and far between, sadly, in my experience, at least. And I'm even, again, me shopping around for this EV here. Yeah, man, I could go on a 2-hour rant probably about just my experience of trying to hunt down these deals and me kind of going through the car shopping process. I understand how people hate it and why people just want to do direct purchasing and why, Tesla and other companies that just do that. It makes it immensely easier. And man, I can't wait till dealers are a thing of the past. It will happen eventually, at least as far as new car, I think, just because again, people just hate it. And you can only keep that going for so long before people find, alternatives. I think that's part of, Tesla's huge success is that was one brilliant thing to give them credit where credit is due. Not having dealers from the beginning was brilliant. And let me see here. See, Anthony's giving his impressions here about Pirelli Scorpions on his wife's CX-5 Turbo, and he says he really loves them. His all-wheel drive TLX has Continental Extreme Contacts, best blend of performance, has gotten me through some snow as well. Yeah, I love the Continental Contacts. I mean, I had that on the Bullet before I sold it. Really great tires. Pirelli in the past, maybe I've just had the wrong kinds of Pirellis. I haven't had good luck with Pirellis. They've been because a lot of the Mustangs from the factory come with Pirellis, especially the non-performance ones before they switched to the Michelin Pilot Sport, came with Pirellis. And man, those things, the amount of Mustangs that got wrecked on their factory Pirellis were just, you would see like a weekly forum post like, yep, Pirelli screwed me, and like it happens so much. Hopefully, obviously, other tires are better, and there's huge companies that still use Pirelli, so it's not like they're all garbage, but Pirelli can be hit or miss, I think, for sure. Yeah, Luke says the car salesman being my brother gives me some comfort on my fear of gouging. Oh, well, that's definitely huge. Then hopefully, yeah, your brother won't screw you. So that unless the manager comes down on him or something, hopefully, you'll be able to get a good deal still. So that's I didn't know that component of it. Yeah, if your brother's a salesman, hopefully things will be good. Sorry if I forgot that previously, and sorry I missed a couple of super chats for some reason. Did not get notified of these. So Raphael, apologies for the wait. He says, did American companies drop the ball getting rid of sedans? Camry sold 300,000 last year. I think that they did. it's so amazing to me that Ford, even in Europe, is still sticking with their plan of killing the Focus this year, even though their sales were massively down because they got rid of the Fiesta. And no one's really interested in all the other new products that Ford's been putting out. People still buy Focuses in good numbers, and then they're gonna still kill it off. So like, even though like they didn't learn their lesson, they didn't learn their lesson here in the States. They're watching it play out in real time, and they have a chance to save it in Europe, and they are still being like, nope, let's shoot ourselves in the foot again. And like, I don't understand it. It's truly remarkable to me. So if Ford can't realize this whenever it's literally smacking them in the face, it's yeah. But I agree, they did absolutely drop the ball. Chevy, same deal. Malibu was actually still selling well for being so dated and honestly pretty uncompetitive to the best sedans out there. But I mean, still, like, I wish they would have found a way to keep that around. And they may regret that too, because they're going to be bringing in the new Bolt, apparently, I guess, to be built at that factory where Malibu is currently built. Is that going to play out for them well for the next 4 years? I don't know. I kind of feel like that would be another kind of last minute decision. Do you put Bolt on the back burner or try and split the factory and keep Malibu going in some form or another? We also don't know. The Hyundai and GM have this new partnership. Maybe we will see a Sonata with Chevy badges on it or something like that, and they will bring it back. And maybe at least Chevy has the good sense to try to get back into the sedan market. I don't know. But absolutely. I think, and I know for a fact, actually, I was on the Hyundai Sonata drive program, and one of the journalists asked one of the product planners or whatever, like, how do you feel about all these, sedans getting killed off? He's like, it's great news for us. It's like, we're just picking up sales left and right. And, I'm sure all those, last few companies, it just keeps getting better and better, with Legacy now dropping out here this year. And, again, Malibu dropping out and everything else. It makes it even easier on these companies. So I think that's really a lot of what you're seeing too. It's just that, also the fact that, they're really well done vehicles, but also a lot of people, again, can maybe feel like they can get a little bit of a either better value out of a sedan, and they're kind of putting aside the need for an SUV, these days a little bit more, just because of the price sensitivity that a lot of people have. And I mean, Camry also, last thing I'll say about Camry is that, they priced it so well. They announced pricing, and I was like, this is going to be a huge hit just because of pricing, because it's the same. I think it actually I think they dropped the price like $200 compared to the last gen hybrid entry level version. And I'm like, it's better in all the ways, and it's like cheaper. That doesn't happen anymore. Like, this is going to be huge, and it's playing out perfectly. Toyota knows how to really execute well in many cases. They have plenty of screw ups too, but when they nail it, I mean, they really nail it. And Camry is a prime example of that. And that's the reason why Toyota continues to be the largest car company in the world, because they make the right call a lot of times. Anyway, Jordan, thank you so much for Super Chat Voices. If you're watching, hit the thumbs up and support. I appreciate that. I always appreciate any support. And thanks so much, Jordan, for the Super Chat again. And Lewis, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, hey, Matt, thoughts on the Durango RT? Currently own a 24 Mustang GT and looking to add a family car. I love driving V8s. Small engines don't do it for me. Totally can understand. As far as Durango RT, if you just like the sound and you like knowing you have a V8 under the hood, Durango's, great for that. Durango's a solid vehicle. They sell really well. I think my only holdups with Durango are it is very dated. So like packaging isn't the best. The interior is not the best. I mean, it's fine. But it's just, if you cross shop with other competitors, that's where it falls kind of flat, in some of those areas. Also, the power output. Yeah, you get a V8 with the RT, but what does the V8 do in that? I think it's not even 400 horsepower, if I remember correctly. Is it still 375 for the Durango RT? So there's that whole component as well of, you get more power from a Ford Explorer ST, for example. And I don't love the Explorer ST either, but especially with the refresh here, I think, it's going to feel a little more modern. Again, you have more power, maybe better fuel economy. It's debatable. It depends on how you drive it and stuff. But there's those types of things to consider. Also, Durango being old, it also doesn't do great from a crash test standpoint. Not sure. I mean, you said it's a family car, so I'm not sure. Some people, they still, don't care that much about safety, where they're not going to be turned off by a bad crash test. Other people, that is, an absolute make or break kind of thing. So I would just say Durango doesn't do great in crash tests compared to its competitors, especially. So that's one of the reasons why I would never consider a Durango myself. But again, they're really solid. Obviously, they sell very well. Lots of people love them. So it just comes down to your personal preferences there. But there's just a lot of stuff in that segment, and even some performance stuff too. But Durango obviously is the most unique from having the V8 and all that. So definitely a case to be made for it. Not my favorite in the segment, but it sounds like that may fit exactly what you're looking for. If you love the V8 and just hearing that sound every day in your family vehicle, it's kind of going to be one of those have your cake and eat it too kind of things. You have that same fun of the Mustang in a way, and you can haul a family. That might be exactly what you need and what you're looking for. So sounds like you're on the right track. Definitely take it for a test drive if you haven't already, and see how it all feels to you. And let me see here. Stud Muffin, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, what if Trump's tariffs force American car manufacturers to start making cars in America? Wouldn't Americans buy American cars because they're cheaper? This is a very complex thing to kind of talk through. I'm trying to find a way to say this concisely. It's a nice idea. I'm all for American manufacturing. I wish everything was made in America. As far as products, it'd be great. If everything worked out. It just, unfortunately, that's not realistic in my opinion. And so also the thing that I've been seeing a theme this past week, I saw this a lot in the weekly update comments. A lot of people, I don't know, I guess they think that maybe these tariffs will help things in the 2030s maybe, but a lot of people, I think, don't understand how long it takes to build a factory, and that factories are long-term commitments. Companies don't build factories based on a presidential administration. It takes almost that long to build the factory and get it up and running. By the time you break ground, anyone who's followed like the Tesla, factories that they've built, or any factory, there's factories sprouting up all over the place, and some of that has started in the past 4 years as a result of the battery manufacturing incentives and stuff that came in. So yes, they added some of that stuff in, but those were all things that were already on track. That's the thing. All these EVs that we have seen debut in the past 4 years, those were all conceived, developed, and engineered during the last Trump administration. So those were things that they were working on when Trump was president last time, that a lot of that stuff ended up coming online in the Biden stuff. And some of that, again, they did shift battery production and shift some of these things. And that's what you'll see with, everyone trying to work around these tariffs. If they do, in fact, stick around, is you will see companies try and work around them. And a lot of companies will. They will certainly shift things around. I think like GM, for example, they build Silverados, some of them in Canada, some of them in Mexico, and some, I believe, here in the States as well. And so they can pull levers and make sure that the ones that are going to Americans are more so the ones that are built in America. You'd think that would be the case anyway, but I guess it's not. And so, trying to optimize your production that you already have is, I think, what you're going to see the most of, and companies will try and do that as best they can. But, there's a factory doesn't go up as fast as a house does, so it's not like, okay, that even if they said, all right, let's break ground tomorrow on a new factory and, have everything in America here, like that's going to take years. And then what happens if the tables turn in 2028 and then there's no incentive for any of that stuff, or the tariffs just get dropped, and then these companies just wasted a bunch of money, building these factories in America, which, it's great. I, again, want to support American workers, but part of the problem with a lot of these factories already in America is they don't have enough workers. I can't remember. I was reading just a report the other day about I think one of the factories up in one of the northern states, they're struggling to run full production capacity because they don't have enough people to do it. And obviously that's regional, and maybe that's just you have to find a region where you have a lot of people willing to make, assembly line pay. But these are not high paying jobs, and not everyone's lining up for them. And so you have to keep that in mind. Sure, okay, great, you build all your factories here in the States, and then who's going to work all of them? If everyone wants $40 an hour, how are you going to do that? We saw how the UAW really brought these car companies to their knees back in the end of 2023. And then, so from a car company standpoint, do you want to have even more of that, stuff really being dependent on those unions and all that? I mean, I'm not against unions, but like these are all the risks these car companies have to factor in on all this stuff. And this is why I think what you're going to see is the little bit of optimization, and then otherwise just weathering the storm. I know Honda and Toyota, I believe, in Canada said that they are prepared to just stop their factories and wait it out. And see what happens. Again, we've seen this before with COVID, and they weathered it before with less supply. And again, dealers made a killing off of it, and Americans are the ones that lost out. And I think that car companies are preparing for that same scenario again, because they've done it once, they can do it again, and that's most likely what they'll end up doing. Because these tariffs are not sustainable, in my opinion. So again, it's a nice idea. I'd love to live in some idyllic world where everything's built in America. Every American's making a great wage building these things, and everyone has plenty of, there's plenty of jobs for everyone and all this stuff. But the reality is it's much messier and much more complicated than that. And it's not just some simple thing of we put up a factory, it gets built in 6 months, and we have everyone making $100,000 a year building, screwing bolts onto wheels and all these other things. I mean, it's not realistic. There's a reason why cars are built in other parts of the world. There's a reason why some things are built in the States. But there's a lot of complicated factors that go into that, and I don't think that's been properly accounted for. As far as anyone's discussions about these things, it's very, very complicated. So I wish it was just some simple blanket thing and that was it. But there's a lot of nuance. There's always a lot of nuance. There's gray areas. There's just a lot of extra things that, it's never simple. I used to think things could be simple, and, companies had everyone's best interest in mind and all this stuff. And, I've come to just realize that corporate greed is absolutely a thing, and that screws up all these great ideas. Because people are greedy, and because they're worried about shareholders and all this other crap. And so that throws a wrench in all of these potentially nice ideas that just make them unrealistic. And then when you try and forge ahead with unrealistic ideas, you just end up in a dead end. And I think that's kind of where we're headed with these tariffs, but we'll see what happens. Again, I have no clue what to expect or what to predict. But I know the car industry, and I know I'm following that stuff, and it is not going to be good for the car industry. It's going to be bad for car prices. Everyone's already pissed off about car prices. If this stays in effect, it is going to make it way worse, and have worse supply and worse prices. And it's just not going to be good. So especially if you want one of the cars that's currently being shipped in from Canada or Mexico, buy it now if you can get it still for the same deal and they're not price gouging already. But I would run out and get that stuff as fast as you can. Same goes for any of the other things that are getting slapped with tariffs. Get it while you can. I couldn't even get bananas. I was looking, there's for some reason a banana shortage at my grocery store the other night. So get everything you can while you can, because who knows what we're going to be able to get here soon. Anyway, but I'll move off of that, but hopefully that answers the question a little bit without pissing too many people off here. But let me see. I got to find my place here from where we last left off here. Harsha says, I hope dealers realize that they are contributing to people losing interest in cars as they can't afford it, and therefore they buy other types of vehicles such as bicycles and motorcycles. There's a lot of that. And just people, again, people that used to be new car buyers, now used car buyers, and that hurts the OEMs. And this is why the OEMs want to break away from these stupid dealers, because it's ruining a lot of these brands. And, I've seen so many times the car company comes out with a car and the pricing is great, and then dealer screws it up. And GR Corolla is a prime example of that. I think those markups, really hurt the hype. Obviously, the warranty crap hurt the hype, and there's other things as well. It's not just that, but dealer markups really took the wind out of their sails on GR Corolla. And it's not Toyota's fault. They did a great job, at least from a pricing standpoint, did a great job. 40 grand. Fantastic. For that kind of performance, that kind of horsepower, all that stuff for 40 grand, excellent, 10 out of 10 as far as pricing goes. And then, dealers screwed it up. You couldn't get one for 40. And then it's just like, forget it. And it just ruins it, there's so many instances where that happens. Let me see. I see Danny also says the family Chevy Bolt hit 70,000 miles this past Tuesday. Nice. Glad it's still doing well for you there. And Linda, thank you so much for a super chat. She said, YouTubers, Car Edge will help you find a car at a good price. Son started it with the help of a father who worked 40 years at a car dealership. Yeah, I've had a few discussions with Car Edge in the past. The only thing is I don't love their tactics on YouTube. They are very clickbaity and very sensationalizing with a lot of the stuff that they do. It's not my style. It works for them. It works for Scotty Kilmer and a bunch of other people. I don't love the sensationalizing and the misleading, stuff, making everything seem like the sky is falling. But that's what a lot of people feel like they need to do to survive on YouTube, or they just are laughing all the way to the bank and they don't care. I don't know. But to me, you can put out good information without, having crazy titles and thumbnails and making it seem like the car industry is collapsing every other day. But anyway, try not to get too ranty here tonight. I know that ship is probably already sailed, but I apologize for any of that. And thank you again, Linda, for the super chat. Triton Car Guy says, the more and more I see this stuff going on with new cars, the more I'm glad I have 2 used cars that are paid for. Yeah, that is absolutely a good way to go, especially with the interest rates. I mean, they've started to improve here, but if you can't get a good interest rate, absolutely do not buy a car right now. Hold on to what you've got and, weather the storm here. Golf Marker says 25 degrees here. Okay, maybe you said that one twice, but yeah, it's crazy. It's chilly up there. Raphael says, this is the one day of the year I like groundhogs. They'll be the enemy once I plant my garden. I know what you mean with that. I have so many core childhood memories of my mom chasing away groundhogs from her garden with her broom and getting so mad at them. So can completely relate to that. Luke says, have you heard of open pilot system you can install on most cars? It has semi-autonomous driving and costs $1,000. I haven't heard of that. A little skeptical of something like that, especially if it costs that much money. But I don't know anything about it, so I'm not going to make a judgment call on it myself until I look into it. But yeah, to me, to do proper, semi-autonomous assistance, you really want to have a bunch of radar sensors. You want to make sure you have it tied into the blind spot monitoring. You want to make sure that you have, a lot of sensing going on. I'm not confident that an aftermarket thing you can install could do that. Maybe it's really good. Again, I have to look into it. Thanks for letting me know about that. I had no clue that was a thing. So I'll have to check that out, Luke. But yeah, I definitely would, make sure that you do some research if you're planning on considering, getting that, because that seems like a steep price for something that's not OEM quality. But yeah, it might be good. I don't know. And Linda, thank you so much for the super chat. She says, thanks for your honest take. Totally respect your opinion. I appreciate that, Linda. Thanks so much. I know it's, like I said, this past weekly update was tough from a comment section standpoint. I don't like talking about this stuff, but it's just like, it affects, it's the car industry. And that's my job, is to talk about that stuff in the weekly updates. And so it's one of these things. I try and stay neutral as much as I can, but I also, I'm not, in my opinion, going to just let stuff slide if it's obvious BS, in my opinion. And again, that's my opinion. And unfortunately, my opinion is bleeding into that. And I don't want that to be the case, but I can't report on stuff that, in my opinion, is a straight up contradiction or lie with a straight face and act like it's fact. I can't live with myself with that. So if that means I lose a few people, unfortunately, that's what I have to live with. I just, unfortunately, cars have been politicized, EVs have been politicized instead of just being assessed as a new form of technology. It has to be this whole political thing. It just, unfortunately, it's just all been polluted with politics, and it sucks. I wish that wasn't the case. We could just, have cars not be political. But anyway, Wheatman, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships too. I really appreciate the generosity, and happy to see so many people able to get those memberships. But thanks so much, Wheatman. And thanks also for being a member for over 2 years here. And like I said, I got to come up with a cool new badge here for those of you that will be approaching 3 years here soon. And let me see. Other questions here from members. Where were we? Here we go. Linda says, good evening. Next Sunday will be the Super Bowl. Will you be here? I'm thinking most folks will be watching and or partying. Yeah, I will be going, probably just gonna be doing it on Saturday next week instead of, I'm not gonna compete with the Super Bowl, obviously. And I also want to just actually watch the commercials. That's what I enjoy for the Super Bowl. So I actually, and I kind of got a little bit of an early scoop on one of the Super Bowl ads on a program I was on recently. So I'm looking forward to seeing, because they kind of teased us with it. I now want to see how that plays out. So yeah, I will be watching the Super Bowl. And so I won't be live streaming. Most likely Saturday night is going to be the plan, unless something makes Saturday undoable for me, but I'm pretty sure I can do Saturday. So hopefully that works for those of you who can make it. Totally understand it's a busy weekend for everyone who can't, but I think, yeah, we'll probably do Saturday. But thanks for asking, Linda. I mentioned it at the beginning of the live stream, but for those who, weren't there in the first 5 minutes or so, happy that you're able to bring that up so we can, make that announcement again here. Idaho Spud says, I share your skepticism about Tesla. Far too many promises missed. Yeah, I mean, I'm really curious about this new car they're claiming is coming sometime in the first half of this year. I hope they're bringing something great out, but it's just like so hard to take that stuff seriously after so many misses. And let me see. Luke says a couple of forgotten vehicles: Kia Monte, Lincoln Blackwood, Ford Freestyle, Chevy Captiva. Yeah, all of those forgotten by time. Ford Freestyle, I feel like the Freestyle came up a little bit recently because of the flex conversations due to the new Santa Fe and its resemblance to that a little bit. So that's the one that I saw a little bit of mention. But yeah, Lincoln Blackwood was a really good idea, and with all these premium trucks out there, and the GMCs, you would think that, why are they not doing a new Lincoln Blackwood? Like, that is a no-brainer money printer, like easy, like. So I don't, maybe they don't have the production capacity for it, or they don't want to eat into F-150 sales because they're terrified of losing the crown of #1 selling truck. I don't know, but like, man, they could make so much money with Blackwood there. And Kia Monte and Chevy Captiva, maybe not so much for those two, but cool, yeah. Fun little cars that, yeah, a lot of people forgot about, and so many fun stories behind those too. And Harsha says, I'm graduating in August of this year from college with a degree in business. I want to treat myself with a 2-door sports car as my first car that will be paid with my money. How do college graduates save up for a car? I mean, it's really tough. It really comes down to the kind of job you land, and also what your living situation is like. Do you have the luxury of living with your parents and saving up money there and really conserving money? A lot of people don't have that option. They got to go and, get an apartment or whatever and do what they need to do. So it just comes down to how hard you want to sacrifice for that car. If you want to have a bunch of roommates and, live in a small little place or something and eat ramen, you might be able to stretch for something more. For some people, that is worthwhile. I mean, it all comes down to again, what your preferences are. I mean, I will say that, for a lot of my life, especially in my younger years, I didn't have much of a social life because I was always working because I wanted a sweet car. And that's, that's something I chose to do. Some people, they didn't want to do that, but, I was able to afford the cars that I afforded because I wasn't going out on dates. I wasn't going out and hanging out with buddies. I wasn't, spending money on eating out or drinking or, any of that stuff. So, as a result, I had more money to spend on a car. And obviously other people chose to have something cheaper that was still fun and also have fun socially, which, is, probably the better way to do it, honestly, in hindsight. I think I did miss out on some living by, just being a slave to work just because I wanted that sweet car. But for me, that was my mindset was that was the most important thing to me. So it really comes down to, again, how extreme you want to go with that. Obviously, the great thing about the used car market is you know, there's a fun car for any price level. I am a true believer in that you can have a fun car at any price point. Sorry, my notifications are going off like nuts here. I don't know what's going on, but anyway, so yeah, that's just again, there's varying degrees that you could pick up, a nice little old Miata for a couple $1,000 and still have everything else, or you could get something really sweet and expensive and make that work too. It all comes down to, again, all the variables there. But congrats on graduating here in August, and hope the final few months go smoothly and not too challenging there. Hope you land a great job here, and best of luck to you with your professional career here as it begins. That's very exciting. And Carr says, good news. My brother helped me fix my YouTube settings and I'm back on PC. More good news. My brother, Michael Hedrick Wet Shaves, is now a subscriber too. That's awesome. Thanks so much for subscribing, Michael, and happy they're able to get that fixed there. Dylan says, I saw that Doug DeMuro mentioned how a lot of manufacturers are adding gimmicks to EVs due to, most driving the same. Got me wondering what level of gimmick the average driver is willing to put up with. I think the important thing about the gimmicks is they're all able to be turned off. So if you want a completely silent, just non-dramatic experience, you can do that. I don't know of any EV that forces you to have anything sound-wise or experience-wise other than the pedestrian warning thing that's federally mandated for now. That's the only thing that you can't turn off. Everything else can be turned off. So that the gimmicks are just cherries on top. If you want them, great. If you don't, throw them off and get rid of them. So to me, that doesn't bother me. And I don't agree if there's assessment that all EVs drive the same either. Sure, there's the similar instant power delivery, but if you look at cars, at least the cars that I've reviewed, there's so much more that goes into a car than the way the power is delivered or the sound that it makes. I've been judging cars based on handling and based on styling and based on interiors, and based on NVH and based on efficiency and based on all these other things the entire time I've reviewed cars. And all of those things are different for EVs, for every single one of them. They're all different in those ways. Yes, they're all quieter because they don't have an engine, but that doesn't mean that they're all silent. Some do it better than others. There's always, again, this variability of one does it better than the other. And whether we're talking about gas stuff or EVs, to me, it hasn't really changed that much. And I also grapple with this because even like Jeremy Clarkson, on his final Grand Tour had to, put in a jab about how EVs are soulless and boring and this, that, and the other. And, it's just clearly not something that he's into, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be something for everybody, but it's just kind of befuddling to me whenever I hear, that assessment about EVs. Maybe for people who haven't experienced a bunch of them, maybe, again, the instant power delivery and the silence is enough to make them all feel the same. But there's so much more that goes into a car to make it, unique, in my opinion, to stand out. And if you blindfold me, I can tell you the difference between riding an Armaki and riding in an Ioniq 5 or, as other things. There is so much more that goes into cars than just, that basic component. So anyway, moving on, but yeah, that's interesting. Another thing that Doug and I don't see eye to eye on, I guess. And let me see. Luke says the car industry is terrifying. Thank you, Luke, for the super chat. And you are absolutely right. The industry, it's such a shame. The car industry did not need any more hurdles, and now we got a giant, arguably biggest hurdle we've ever had. And we'll see how it plays out, but not great. Jordan, thank you for super chat as well. He says, could human optometrist data contribute to vehicle operation? Interior cameras, radar, hands-free cruise, driver's license shows your vision capability. That's interesting. I don't know. I feel like there is a component where, yes, eyesight is important, but I assume that Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's something maybe insurance companies would love to know that information. I don't think that's one of the questions that they're, trying to figure out yet. But I mean, I feel like that's something insurance companies would like to know because it would certainly inform their, risk assessments. But as far as like driver's licensing and stuff, I mean, licensing is such a free for all anyway that, I've always said I wish there was different tiers of licensing. And, if you showed that you graduated from a high performance driving school, then you could, use the HOV lane, as a single driver and go faster or, have a higher speed limit, like oftentimes you see trucks 45, cars 55, people that have done high performance driving schools 65 or something and have like a special, sticker on your car or something saying, hey, I, have, or the person who's at least registered this vehicle has, done extra stuff to, be safer behind the wheel or something. But it's just one of those things that I think it's just like too hard to actually properly implement. That just makes it so that it's just something that would never get anywhere. And I think, with vision, most people are relatively equal, because with glasses, contacts, whatever, like, if you can't see, like you're going to put on glasses typically, you're not just going to drive blind, or you would hope not. So otherwise it wouldn't last very long. So I feel like it's one of those things that's probably not worth pursuing for most of these things. So it's just, they probably just sweep it under the rug and don't give it much thought. But you have the best questions. I mean, the amount of very thought-provoking questions, Jordan. Thank you so much for asking. And never crossed my mind, to be completely honest. But yeah, that's awesome. And let me see here. Other questions here from members. So where were we? So Trenton Car Guy says, one of the interesting spots I've seen in the last couple of weeks was a first-gen NSX that was modified. Also saw a white Ferrari at a local mall. Nice. And first-gen NSX, that's always a treat to see as well. Idaho Spud said, Car Coach reports looks like a lot of alarmist, shocking car news. Yeah. yeah. There's some of that for sure. I could, like I said, I could go in more, but I'm not going to try and talk crap. I see Saab Fanatics says he had Sumitomo's on the Saab. We're talking about our earlier tire conversation. He said both high performance ones as well as Winters. I don't think I've seen them around anymore in years. Oh, interesting. So is Sumitomo not a thing? I thought I saw their tires pop up on Tire Rack a year or two ago whenever I was shopping for something. Or maybe it was actually for the Bullet. I think when I was looking around like what tires I could get for the Bullet, I thought Sumitomo still had some, but maybe they haven't. I don't know. And Two Track Drac says, isn't Multimatic in Canada as well? It is. So I guess that's one of the least effective things, though, because Multimatic building those expensive Mustang GTDs, if you slap on another $100,000, people aren't going to care anyway, I guess, for those. So Ford's probably okay in that one area. Ford, honestly, is pretty well set with the tariffs. They're one of the ones that'll be hurt the least by it because they do so much production in the States already. Again, Mach-E, Maverick, Bronco Sport are the biggest losers for them from a tariff standpoint. And then again, whatever motors are built in Windsor, that's about it, I think, because the one assembly plant they had in Canada was building the Ford Edge and the Lincoln MKZ or MKX, which then turned into the Nautilus, I think, right? And now the new Nautilus is built in China. I guess that'll get a 10% tariff, but that's it. Everything else that Ford makes, again, then the cash cow, the F-150, all is, U.S. production here. So I think they should be good there. But you see TFI says color for the 3-year mark is R34 Midnight Purple. That would be awesome. Okay, so maybe, for the badge, I do maybe instead of the green background there, maybe try like midnight purple lettering with maybe a white background or something, so it really pops a little bit more. Maybe something like that. Okay, thanks for the suggestion. Yeah, because I'm not a creative person when it comes to stuff like that. So any suggestions are appreciated. So thank you. I'll have to, I'm gonna have to try that out here whenever I got to do the new badge soon. Linda says, I 100% prefer the S550 to the S650. Large screen, no thank you. Red is always a nice color for badges. Okay. Yeah. I don't think I've done red, so maybe that could be another idea too. Do that. Thanks for the suggestion, Linda, and totally agree with you there on S550. Strata says he saw VinFast the other day, pretty sharp. Yeah, VinFast. Sorry, I had a floating cat here. VinFast is. I'm curious how they're doing because I haven't heard much about them recently. And yeah, I'm curious how owners are, living with them and all that now. How that's actually playing out. And Jordan says he loves his Fusion. Yeah, it's a shame Ford didn't make it because Ford has a sedan in China and just didn't want to bother to bring it over. It's such a shame. And let me see. Dave says, "Hey Matt, what car that is no longer made would you choose to bring back?" It's hard to pick just one. I don't know. I mean, I guess the knee-jerk reaction would be STI. But honestly, I just, as we saw with the S210 that Subaru did in Japan, it would just be a disappointment anyway. So, honestly, I think that some of the top cars that I want to see come back are probably already going to be coming back. Like I'm excited about Celica. I'm excited about MR2. We'll see. Prelude doesn't seem like it's going to be super exciting, but still, it's a two-door. It's a gift. I'm happy to see it. So, but I think I'm nostalgic for a lot of that, 90s, 2000s kind of sport compact stuff the most. So those are the things that I'd really love to see. I'd love to see a resurgence of just two-door, 200 horsepower sport compacts. Obviously, Civic Si is really the last one standing there. We have, Elantra GT line, and again, like the Forte GT, which now the K5 or K4 GT line. There's still some of that in a way, but I'd love to see more, especially more with manuals. And so I'd love to see all those things come back. I think it'd be great. All the, JDM icons of the 90s, bring them all back. It's so hard to pick just one. So I don't think there's any one that I could pick. I guess now if maybe GTR, since GTR, I think they stopped building them or they are soon to stop building them. Maybe the production has already ended. I'm not sure, but they announced all the final editions and all that stuff. But GTR is one of the top ones I want to see come back to. I just have so much love for that car, and so love to see that come back sooner rather than later. We'll see. And Harsha says, "Why doesn't Subaru have a luxury brand? Hyundai and Kia are killing it with Genesis." Good question, actually. I don't know. I know you guys are bringing up so many good things that I've never once thought about. I never have considered Subaru not having a luxury brand. I mean, I guess it makes sense. They could. There's nothing stopping them. I think, in the past, Subaru owners, I don't know if they're the type that would go for a luxury thing. Obviously, again, you're targeting different people with the luxury brand, so maybe that's irrelevant. It takes a lot of resources to do a luxury brand and actually do it well. This is why, like Hyundai and Kia, like that whole Hyundai Motor Group has one with Genesis. And you see, it is profitable if you can get it going and actually give it the prestige that it needs. But like Mazda, for example, they could have done something like that because they wanted to go premium. Instead, they just decided to push themselves up market overall. I don't see Subaru doing that, but I'm sure that with the good sales that they have, there's part of them that maybe the product planners are thinking, can we push higher? Can we, get something more expensive? And where do they go for that? Where is it just nicer versions of everything they already have? Or is it going to be, something different, and I think, I feel like, I think if Ascent did better, they would probably give them more confidence to try something like that. But Ascent, it doesn't sell as well as a lot of the main competitors in that segment still. And, I mean, it's getting dated at this point, but even when it was fresh, it wasn't the top, not even one of the top 5, I don't think, in that segment. So, I think that was kind of maybe their test of like, okay, we're going to go bigger. We're going to push a little higher. And, I mean, they're selling a good amount of them. It's not like it's a failure, but like, that's not like a raging success. Like if that was some huge success story, then I could see them being like, hey, maybe they do something even bigger now, or maybe we push, even more. And, so I feel like they're kind of happy. Their top sellers are Crosstrek, Forester, Outback, cheap, pretty basic stuff. That's their bread and butter. I mean, I guess you could have made the same argument for Honda with Civic and Accord and stuff, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess there's no good reason for them to not try, especially again knowing that there's these huge profit margins on luxury stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what they would use for branding. It's a whole. I could go down a whole rabbit trail of, of unraveling this here. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's very thought provoking. Thanks for the little suggestion there, Harsha. That's a fun idea. Yeah, maybe we'll see it someday. Who knows? And TFI says Subaru did an upscale coupe called the SVX, and it barely sold. Their premier trims fill that niche for rich people who want to look poor. That's true. Yeah. And I mean, SVX, you're right. It wasn't a huge success. And they also tried with other stuff in the 80s, the Turbo XT, and just the regular XT before that. And there's a bunch of those types of things that, yeah, they tried to push a little bit higher. That was obviously a different time. So these days, if people are more willing to drop huge amounts of money on a car, maybe they'd have a better shot at it. I don't know. But yeah. Let me see. I'm just going to do member questions here so I don't get too far behind. I will try and go back to non-member questions if I have a chance here. But since we only have another 35 minutes, don't want to fall too far behind here. But Luke says, I noticed so much hate for the Pirellis that came with the S550. I thought they weren't too bad even in the rain. They never slipped. Nice. Well, I'm glad you had good luck with yours. They certainly slipped on me when I had them. And yeah, I guess it comes down to just where you live and all that too. But Luke says, Pirelli sounds like a gym shoe brand. I guess if you drive your car to the gym, it's technically true. Yeah, Pirelli, and I think actually they make shoes. And I think it was Goodyear and a couple others do too. But yeah. Let me see. Jason says there's a rumor that Chevy is bringing back the Monte Carlo, but I don't have confidence in that until I see it. Yeah, I don't see the only reason I could see them maybe doing that, because there was the teaser of an Ultium EV with a coupe body style, silhouette that was teased. Everyone assumed that was going to be Camaro, and Camaro has gone away. So I think, the thing that people would want to see brought back the most is Camaro, probably, even if it is an EV. But maybe if they don't want to soil the Camaro name and have all the outrage that people are getting, or that people are giving Dodge for the Charger, okay, I could see maybe Monte Carlo kind of sidestepping that. You have less people to piss off, because it's not like there's an enormous Monte Carlo fan club probably. So, I could see that, if they were going to go EV and they were nervous about, upsetting people, you do that. That's the only case I could see being made for Monte Carlo. And also the fact that if it's bigger, it's maybe more luxurious, more relaxed, then Monte Carlo fits that better than Camaro as well. So I can see that making sense a little bit. I haven't heard that rumor, and I still feel like it's hard to justify a two-door for anybody. So I wouldn't hold your breath for that. But I can kind of understand the rationale if it is in fact an EV for sure, especially then that could be a safe way of playing it if they don't want to upset people and yeah, get in the same trap that Dodge and Ford and others, got into. And let me see here. Jordan, thank you so much for another super chat. I really appreciate it. He says, with AI being controversial, will more car companies admit publicly with the assistance, admit about how they're using the assistance of AI? Yeah, I think that, AI, it's controversial, but it's also a buzzword. And whenever we're talking about it enhancing people's, work, I think in those cases, people don't really have much of a problem with it, generally speaking. There's exceptions, but, so I don't think that's going to be too problematic. And I think car companies will probably try and say that just again, because it is a buzzword and it, shows that they're in tune with the times and they're hip and they're, cutting edge. So I feel like they're probably going to be fine with, talking about that. But yeah, thank you again, Jordan, for the super chat. And let me see other questions here, getting back to where I was. So where were we here? So TFI says Dale Earnhardt would roll in his grave if Chevy made a Monte Carlo crossover SUV thing. Yeah, well, if it's something like that, it's just like, what's so hard about coming up with new names? Like, I'm all for nostalgia and all that, and I understand that for some of these brands, they think that these names have equity, and a lot of them really do. But when we're talking about an old, long dead name like Monte Carlo, you know, yeah, maybe you get a few, older people that are excited about that, that remember the old ones. And, if the new one is true to the old ones, then it's great. But, if it's not, then if it's some SUV or something, I feel like it's only going to work against you. So I don't understand the appeal to bring back some of these names if they're going to be misused. And Wheatman says, Matt, what are your thoughts on the Subaru Solterra? They reduced the price in 2025, but has anything else gotten better? Yes, the charge curve has gotten dramatically better. I think they actually improved that for 24. For 25 though, it's continuing to be, it's a better charge curve now. So it holds the higher charge rates for a longer period of time. Obviously, it's still, again, no Hyundai or anything with the charging. It's still going to be on the slow end, but I'd say it's now roughly on par with what you get with, like Mach-E, for example, and some of the others that, do that average, something between 100 and 150 kilowatt charging. Because also you got to keep in mind, like, peak rates are great, but it also comes down to what is the curve like. And if a car, doesn't actually sustain that peak for very long, or even sustain any kind of higher level for very long, then it's, really, hurts that actual real world charge time. So, but that's the biggest thing they changed about it. Otherwise, it hasn't really changed. Solterra, if you can get a good deal on it, though, I mean, I've been seeing a bunch of them pop up around here because the lease deals have been fantastic. I think I saw my local dealer the other day. I think Solterra was like 329 sign and drive, something like that. I think with like $2,000 down or something, it was like 200 something. I mean, it's a lot of car. I mean, we're talking about a car that's, in the mid 40s for, $200 to $300, 400 maybe after taxes and stuff. That's a pretty good deal. Especially if you're not road tripping a lot. I think and again, even in that case, it's fine now, I think, for the fast charger from what I've seen. Have not experienced one. I actually have never reviewed a Solterra. I did review the BZ4X, which is the same thing. Really liked it, actually. I think those cars get way more crap than they deserve. Yes, the first year they were slow to charge, and that was a real pain. But they fixed that, and so now, to me, I have no problems recommending those vehicles. I think they're really nice, otherwise. And again, the deals are fantastic. So that's good for those who, again, just need a good deal. And Carr says, I'm pretty excited about the new Charger. I really like the retro modern styling, and I think it's excellent that they have choices for both EV and ICE, so customers can take their pick. Nice. I agree, and I'm excited to try out the ICE version here sometime this summer, I think. And I really hope that more people come around to Charger once the ICE version's here, because I think it looks great too. I mean, some people, I guess, are always going to complain, but I think they killed it on the styling. It looks so sweet. And the Hurricane motor is a solid motor too. And so, for people who, can be okay not having the sound of a V8, it's going to be a really nice improvement, I think, in a lot of ways. If you can actually look at it without the, cloud of all the negativity that's been following that car, sadly. And let me see. Jason says, depends on what all the tariffs affect. As far as, okay, we're talking about this stuff from earlier. Yes, same kind of thing I was saying there. And let me see. Harsher says, luckily Toyota makes the Camry, RAV4, and Tacoma and Tundra all in the U.S. That is true. But RAV4, and there's one other one too. I think maybe some Camry production. I know there's some RAV4 and some Camry production that does happen in Canada. I don't think it's, and I thought, I read the article today. I can't remember the exact percentage. I don't know if they said it's 40 or 60% of production is in Canada, but I feel like it is a sizable percentage. So I would expect RAV4. I know RAV4, and I think it was Camry as well. Again, I got to look it up to know for sure, but I think both of those, especially RAV4 at least, there will be some supply issues with those if the tariffs do come into effect. And like I said, Toyota and Honda have said they will just stop their assembly plants if the tariffs actually follow through on Tuesday. So I prepare for some shortages there for RAV4. I mean, RAV4 is kind of on its way out here. It sounds like we'll probably get a new version for the 2026 model year, but they still, I mean, it was over. I think they were almost about to crack 500,000 last year with RAV4. I mean, they saw a ton of them. So absolutely, any little hurt to that is going to hurt their crown of top selling vehicle potentially. But CRV's in the same boat because there's also some production of that in Ontario. So we'll see what happens. But let me see. MD Can, thank you so much for gifting a membership. I really appreciate it. Happy to see that Darnell was able to get one there. And thanks so much for your generosity, MDKN. And let me see here. Dylan says, I'm by no means an expert, but I've always assumed American companies building stuff outside of the States was because the American employee can be too expensive, but I have no clue really. That is certainly the case for the Mexican stuff. A lot of that is, again, getting that lower cost. Canadian labor, though, I don't think is really any less. And I'm not an expert on why all these factories are where they are either, so I'm not going to act like I have the answer here. My only other guess is, again, like I mentioned earlier, you only have so many people willing to do that job at that price point, at that pay level. So, I think some of it is just, a lot of these places in Ontario are really close to all those Detroit big three, especially, but, all these companies, they're kind of based, a lot of them in that kind of an area. Toyota is the outlier being in Texas, but, there's that other component there that I think is, just you have to have people to man the factories. And when you run out of all the people that are willing to do that job here in America, then, you got to spread your wings. And that's, with Mexico, it's the bonus of getting it cheaper. But in Canada, it's just getting the bodies to do the job, which is a challenge, as anyone who's ever been a hiring person probably, or a business owner, can certainly relate to. Good help is hard to find. And so there's that component, I think, as well, that people don't really think about as much. But let me see. Where were we here? Luke says, I've been wanting to buy a C7 Z51 manual for so long, but they are so rare and expensive when they do pop up, usually 45 to 50 with 40,000 miles. C7, it's kind of funny. They really dipped whenever C8 first came out in a lot of ways. I mean, there was some resilience there just because there were some people that, were upset about the manual being lost, upset about it going mid-engine. But C7 was a bargain for a while. I feel like, maybe Z51s were a little bit more, but I feel like I do remember a point where C7s got to under 30 grand for like a decent one, not like a beat to crap one, but like an actual nice one that I would be up for buying myself, like came in under 30 grand. And now I haven't looked at them recently, but if they're 40 to 50, 45 to 50, actually, I don't want to get too far behind, but I wanted to try out doing screen sharing here. So let's look for ourselves because I'm curious, and this will give us a little bit of a fun little new thing to try. Let me see if I can screen share. Okay, I think that's okay. All right, so let me see. I'll do that here. C7s came in, they were 2014? I don't even remember. We'll try that out and see if any C6s we got to weed out. And then they ended in, was it 2019, right? So for regulars, there's Z51 selector on here. Don't see Z51 as a package to pick on there. So we'll just go to regular Corvettes. We'll go out and expand the search radius because I'm all for a road trip to find a good car. So we'll just do 500. Those are not completely insane. Let's go lowest price here. See what we got. And actually, let's weed out. I always have to get rid of price because there's usually a bunch of that. So we'll just do no accidents. We might get it, but just to see what we can come up with. There's definitely some sus cars here, but okay, 32 still for crazy high mileage on that one. But okay, looks like, sorry if this is a little laggy. It looks like it's kind of coming in slow, and apologies for that. I don't run an ad blocker here on Google Chrome. But let me see. Yeah, it looks like there's some mid 30s, but yeah, I guess none of these are probably Z51. I'm guessing. I don't remember what exactly is the call card of the Z51 to know which ones are which as far as what I'm looking at. But okay, they have them up because again, I was seeing some under 30 that were nice, and now it's like there's no nice ones unless you're wow, Z06 that definitely has got to be a flood car. But yeah, so I mean, they have come up a little bit, but yeah, sound like if you want a really nice one like you're talking about, it's going to be a little bit more. So, interesting. All right, well, let me go back here. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed that little little break from my face for a few minutes. But yeah, interesting. So yeah, low mileage, I guess, is yeah definitely the other thing that drives that up there. But yeah, C7 is a great car though. I think even at 45 to 50, again, you look at how much S650s cost, you look how much C8s cost these days and stuff. I think 45 to 50 is still a solid buy for something like that because C7 is a fantastic car. And again, what else are you going to get for less that has the V8, has the manual, and has that kind of a focus to it. Obviously, you have S550s and Camaro is fantastic too. And if you can get one of those cheaper and you're open to that, great. But I mean, obviously, the Corvette's a whole different beast. And so I don't know. To me, that price doesn't seem insane. I don't love it. Obviously, it'd be nice if they were still nice Z51s for under 40, but if that's not the reality, then it's I think it's still a fun car for the money. And Jordan, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, living in Milton, Florida, I've seen major improvements to main highways, but back roads need improvements to contribute to vehicle data. So yeah, I think, I mean, right now, at least around here, the roads are awful because it's just that time of year where they put salt down and then all of a sudden you have gigantic potholes that pop up overnight. But yeah, I think that they've been working on a lot of new bridges and we've seen a lot of nice improvements as far as the infrastructure here, little by little. Obviously, that takes a long time to do. But I see Rafi was enjoying the price look there. He says not bad for that car. Yeah, C7 has been I think it's a great buy, even if it is a little bit higher. Again, you look at new car prices. This is why the used market just makes so much sense. C7s are great, and C7 also holds up. Like if you even from a tech standpoint, like you have a touchscreen, you have CarPlay and Android Auto, because I think they introduced that in like 2016, I believe. So if you get 2016 or newer, you're going to have CarPlay and Android Auto. That's all you need. It's a screen that's big enough that it does everything you need to do. It's super practical with a hatch. I love C7s. I always thought they were fantastic, but yeah, glad you enjoyed the look there. And let me see. So where were we? Luke says basically close to how RCF and GSF holds its value. Yeah, those certainly do. They are. That's another car that I think is going to be collectible eventually because they didn't make a ton of those and they were very unpopular at the time, so not a lot of sales. But looking back, it's a special car. I said that when my last drive of the GSF and RCF, both of them, I said these are special cars. They're gonna hold their value. They're gonna go up someday, and they're gonna be fully appreciated. Even though everyone back in the day said, "Oh, buy an M3, buy an M5 instead." Great cars as well, but the RCF really has a special place in my heart too. And Vishal says, glad I was able to buy my Jetta over the summer and not worry about a car for a while. Got a really good rate through Volkswagen 2.9 for 60 months. Looking forward to paying it off and enjoying it payment free. Nice. That's awesome. And yeah, I think there was a huge burst of car buying here this year because I think again interest rates finally started to come down and people again didn't know what the uncertainty was of the next 4 years either way, and so a lot of people I think wanted to make sure they got that locked in, and seems like that was the right approach because it seems like everything's gonna get really expensive really quickly here, potentially. And Harsher says I watched Kurt Kreifel's cycles a lot recently. He said that motorcycles are the best value when looking for a performance vehicle. He's true. A good 20 grand Honda sport bike can keep up with the ZR1. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's been the whole appeal of motorcycles and especially sport bikes forever, ever since their inception. It's absolutely, you want a speed rush, that is the cheapest way to get it, and from what I've heard, it's it's unparalleled. Even if we throw price out the window, it's just way more immersion, way more adrenaline. It's all the things. So yeah, if you have no problems with motorcycles, absolutely. And I think for me, like it's something I've never, bothered to get into because my risk tolerance just doesn't allow it. It's not safe enough, in my opinion, for what I need for my own safety and well being. It's not in with how people are so terrible at driving and being so distracted, even if you're the best rider in the world. That's what terrifies me. If I had the spare cash and time, I wouldn't mind dabbling in dirt bikes. I think that actually be really fun. And I'd love to someday maybe pick that up as a hobby if I'm ever so fortunate. But yeah, when it comes to the roads, dealing with all the idiots around you, like no thanks. It's just, again, it's not for me. But I agree. If you have no problems with that, I completely agree with Kirk. Can't beat a motorcycle for performance value. And let me see. Where were we here? Dragon Car Guy says, I may be biased, but I wouldn't mind a Magnum return. I'd love that. That is definitely probably one of the top ones I'd love to see come back. That would be awesome. I don't even care what powers it. Just a wagon, any wagon comes back, full wholehearted support for me for sure. And let me see. Let me see. Wheatman says plum purple was a good color for Mopar. It definitely was. And let me see. B Mitchell says Blackwood versus F-150. Ford still markets a Lincoln LT pickup in Mexico because it sells down there. Here it's but I got an F-150 gaslighting on a 100 grand platinum in the US. Gotcha. Okay, I didn't know they made one in Mexico. That's fascinating. Thanks for letting me know about that. I'll have to look into that. So that's surprising. Yeah, just, with all the premium pushed, you would think that people would say, yeah, sure, you paid 100 for your platinum, but I paid 125 for my Lincoln. Here's my superior badge. I don't know, but I guess Ford has probably looked into it, I'm sure, and decided against it for some good reason. But anyway, let me see. So Linda, thank you for a super chat. She says, I never let my husband buy a motorcycle. As a claims adjuster, I saw the risk. Oh, yeah. So you've seen a lot as an adjuster, I'm sure. Yeah, there's a lot of people like that. One of my good friends has been wanting to get a motorcycle for a long time, but it's just something it's a struggle, as far as, having a family, having a significant other, and people that, would miss you if, some random idiot texting and driving, slams into you and you got nothing to protect you. I mean, it's not to be morbid, but it's tough. Some people that doesn't bother them, and kudos to those that, can enjoy that without that worry. I wish my brain was set up that way. It'd make it a whole lot easier for me. But let me see here. Getting back to the member questions. I know there's a bunch of other non-member questions here, and my mouse is being weird, so I don't know if there's. Hopefully, we're not lagging here with the stream, but let me know if it is. Yeah, I don't know if my browser did not like the screen sharing because it's like now things are getting a little laggy here, maybe. So where were we here? So Sam Goodwin, I just see he said long time subscriber, first time seeing your live stream. Just curious if you have any opinion. Okay, are we back? I think so. That was nice. I think YouTube just allowed me to keep going with the regular current live stream. I don't know what happened there. Google Chrome just crapped out on me for some reason. Sorry for that, everyone. Hopefully we didn't lose too many people there, but we only got another 12 minutes or so to go here. So all good if this ended up killing the stream a little early for some people here. But all right. Did drop for a few seconds. Will says, thanks for the feedback, Will, and Cars there with glad that everything's good now. All right. So anyway, Sam was asking, though, about opinions, good or bad, on the 2018 to 2019 F90 BMW M5. They're great. I reviewed one, back when those were new. It's one of those cars that just does it all. It's, super fast, super comfortable, super luxurious, really, really good. I think, my complaint with it back then, if I remember correctly, is just it's not as involving because it is so good at everything that, it's one of those cars that almost is too perfect in a way. And that was really the only flaw that I think I really saw with that car. The ride was a little stiff too, from what I remember, but that was really it. I mean, it's a fantastic car. It's super capable. Obviously, aftermarket is crazy. You can make those things insanely fast too. There's lots of good stuff with them. So I like them a lot. You can go watch my M5 review if you haven't seen it before. I believe it was an 18 that I did. But yeah, fantastic fun. And Robert, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, "Hey bro, I have a used EcoStang 16, 130,000 miles. I have put a lot of money, or I have to put a lot of money into it soon. Should I do it or get a better new/used car? Thanks, love you, bro." I appreciate that, Robert. And thank you for your support. As far as you said, you have to put a lot of money into it. If you are staring down a repair bill, or you think you have to put a bunch of money into it in the near future, I mean, I would say, I've seen people do 200,000 miles on an EcoBoost if it's, maintained well, and the whole history of the car. Um, it just comes down to how much you love it, and what your other options are as far as your budget and what you're looking for. Is there something else that can come in and give you the same fun as the EcoBoost? And if you really love them, you can always upgrade to a newer one with less miles if you have the money. Again, I don't love the S650, but you could do, a refreshed S550. Since you got the 16, you can go up to an 18 or newer, that gives you more torque. There's those performance package ones they added on as well there for the, later S550s. You could do one of those, maybe, something a little new, a little bit more fresh, potentially. But as far as a better, newer used car, it all comes down to your personal preferences. It's way too hard to answer, just without knowing all the context of what you need, what you want, what you can spend, and what you're looking for the car to do. But lots of good options out there, obviously. And but I think the Mustang is still really a sweet spot. And if it's treated you well and you like it, but you don't want to spend the money to fix that one, nothing wrong with sticking with the Mustangs. I mean, I had 4 of them, so I worked my way through the whole lineup pretty much there, going from the EcoBoost to the GTs and then into the Bullet. So, and if you want to spend more money on gas and want some more power, you can always go up to a GT too. There's always those types of things. Lots of good options there, but EcoStangs are great, and getting a newer one I think would be a good move too. But hopefully it helps you a little bit, Robert. Thank you so much for the super chat. And let me see here. Going to try and do the last few member questions here before we go. Linda likes the idea of Midnight Purple there. Okay, so that'd be cool. And Vishal says, "I live near a VinFast dealer. In fact, the very first one to open in the US. VinFasts are pretty popular around here, so people seem to like them." That's nice to hear. I guess the quality is pretty good then. Maybe they fixed that. I mean, I did talk to someone last year, actually, whenever I was on the CX-70 launch with Mazda in Palm Springs. I was actually doing some of my B-roll in a library parking lot. And there was a guy in a green VinFast, and I was waiting till he came out, because I was like, I got to talk to this guy. And I talked to him, and I was like, I got to ask, how do you like it? And he's like, it's actually really nice. He's like, this was, again, over a year ago at this point. He's like, it's a little buggy. But he's like, it's, there's a few software things and a few quirks here and there. But the funny story, I don't know, I've told this before, I apologize. But I was like, he's like, the reason I got it is because I was me and my wife were just going to go shopping at the mall. I guess there was a VinFast store or whatever at his mall or whatever, and he's like, my wife was going in to buy new jeans. I didn't want to go into the store, so I was just meandering around, wandering into the VinFast store. He's like, they offered it to me for half price, so I was like, okay, sure, and he did it. I have no clue. It sounds like the guy, he's like, oh, I've had a bunch of Audis and this, that, and the other. So I think he had the kind of disposable cash to just burn 25 grand or whatever and see what happens. But he was like, it was half off. That's why I got it. And maybe there's a lot of those deals that's contributing to their popularity. I don't know. But, I think VinFast, their little, what are they going to call it? The little VF3 or whatever, the little like Suzuki Jimny looking thing that they're claiming would be like around 20 grand or so, and be a little electric, Jimny essentially. That sounds fantastic. And I'm rooting for every one of these car companies. I don't want to see a car company do badly. So I hope that they're doing well, and in the places where they sell them, I've not seen a single one in Pittsburgh area at all. because there's just no dealer network here, I don't think. But yeah, it's funny. And let me see. Cara says, I'm still enjoying my Maverick, owned it 10 months with the engine built in Spain and the vehicle assembled in Mexico. I'm glad I got it when I did. Absolutely. Yeah, glad, and hang on to it. Unless someone offers you a huge amount of money for it in a few months, which is possible. But anyway, Harsha says, we already know that Subaru customers will buy anything with a symmetrical all-wheel drive. If they had a luxury brand, they would sell hotcakes, as Subaru people are super loyal to them for whatever reason. True. That's true. So if you tell people, yes, this is a nicer Subaru, and you really, don't stray away from the connection to, the lowly Subarus, I can see that luxury brand doing well. You're right. And Jordan, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, Detroit needs a resurrection of car manufacturing, EV, ICE, hybrid, invest in trade school, teaching about manufacturing, EV, ICE, and hybrid. Yeah, I think I agree. I'd love to see, that come back to Detroit. And, there's like the Sterling Heights factory for the Ram. And I believe there's the Hammertrack plant for GM. And there's a couple around there, right? But obviously not a ton. Obviously there's Flat Rock, pretty close by too for Mustang and stuff. So there is some, but I'd love to see more for sure. That'd be great. And I'd love to see manufacturing come back everywhere in the country. I wish it was that simple as, waving a wand of a tariff and all of a sudden you have a bunch of factories pop up. That'd be great. I don't see it, actually panning out that way, even if that's the intention. It's a noble intention. I don't think it's going to actually happen, but we'll see. I'd love to be wrong on that. And I'd love to see tons of factories pop up here with lots of workers making good money and having everything built in America. It's a wonderful idea. But I unfortunately don't think it's just realistic. But anyway, Chad says, what is going to be the new 4Runner police vehicle? I don't see them going for the new Charger. Yeah, I don't know if they will, especially since the police forces have been really burned with like Durangos. Apparently there was a bunch of those that had to go back into the shop and stuff. So I think, I don't know. There's one commenter who comments a lot on the weekly updates and seems like he has some connections to the industry. I'm not sure. He was saying something about the new 4-door Mustang V8, like actual gas powered 4-door Mustang that's rumored to be called Mach 4. He was saying that that's going to be like a big police pursuit vehicle. And that's kind of one of the other reasons why Ford is supposedly doing that. I haven't heard any credible stuff about that recently or any spy shots at all or anything. So I have no clue what the status of that car is. But, I would think that kind of a thing is something that, would kind of have a lot of appeal, and kind of fill the void for Charger. But I think some of them will probably still pick up Charger, the 4-door version when that starts coming online here, I think towards the end of this year, and the ICE version in particular. I think there'll be some police forces that probably still go for those. I think a lot of them, they went to the SUVs and they're not looking back. So I think for most of them, I see a lot. Honestly, what I've seen recently, at least in for the Pennsylvania State Troopers, they had Explorers, and a lot of them still do have Explorers. But for, I think, some of the higher speed stuff or just the more demanding stuff, they are now buying a lot of Chevy Tahoes. And Tahoe, again, it's a really safe pick, especially if they've been burned by Durango. Tahoe is probably the next logical move. So I think that makes a lot of sense. So I've seen a lot of, and even just like local, like townships now are like grabbing Tahoes left and right. So I think that's really the next big one is just Tahoe. But let me see here. MDKN says, only could do one membership gift this week, been on a budgeting kick lately. Totally respect that. Thanks for the generosity nonetheless. And I completely understand. And never ever feel any obligation to anyone to do any of that stuff. Again, I try and, get to at least member questions as best I can and all that. So no pressure ever to do any of that stuff, especially if we end up paying 25% more for everything here this week. Completely understand cutting back on that stuff. And let me see. Harsha says Ford has screwed the Mustang before with naming the Mach-E a Mustang, calling a Pinto a Mustang with a Mustang 2, and now an e-bike they made, which is also called Mustang, which you can buy for $4,000. I hadn't heard about the e-bike. Doesn't surprise me, but that's hilarious. And Harsha says at this point they can make toilet paper a Mustang. It's true. There's no limit. And Rafi says, I would have loved to get a GSF. If I could afford it, I would get an RCF as the fun car. Yeah, they are great. They are great. It's not as dynamic as the competitors, but it's one of those things. You got the V8, you got Lexus reliability, and that's good enough for a lot of people, myself included. I'd love if I, excuse me, I mean, if I had the money and I needed like a dad car, like, you know, the IS 500 is still really appealing to me. Such a fun car. And all right, the 2-hour mark here, so I'm going to try and wrap it up. But last few member questions, and we'll head out. Linda says, without the Mustang 2, Ford would have had to discontinue the Mustang. With the gas situation, no one wanted a V8. A lot of Mustang 2s were sold and kept the Mustang alive. Absolutely. Yeah, that's the really, it was the unsung hero a lot of people, you know, weren't aware of. You know, people look back on it and, you know, don't love it, but it was the right car for the right time. It's kind of like Mach-E in a way. You know, it was the right car for the right time. And now Mach-E subsidizes the V8 Mustang and keeps the V8 Mustang around because of, you know, that offset of the CAFE requirements that previously was important, now no longer will be important. But, you know, that was what was keeping it going, you know, at least as far as the justification of the business case for Ford. But yeah, Mustang 2, I've never driven one. Obviously, yes, it's Pinto based and, you know, not what any Mustang enthusiast, you know, is after. But you know, people forget the Mustang was a people's car and was, you know, this nice secretary's car is what they, you know, called it back in the 60s. You know, and so there's that huge market that you can't overlook. And I think Ford is always smart. You know, that's kind of, I think, the downfall of Camaro. Camaro went after enthusiast, and that gets you the sales numbers that Camaro got. You know, Mustang goes after enthusiasts and it goes after the people looking for a cruiser and people just wanting a nice comfy coupe and, you know, needing the livability of the better visibility and the, you know, roomier back seat. And Charger and Challenger did this even better, you know, but I think that's, you know, very important thing that Chevy lost sight of with Camaro, I think, unfortunately. And let me see. Car says, saw some stats. Besides Tesla, some key vehicles made in the U.S. are Passport, ID4, Odyssey, Ridgeline, Camry, Gladiator, TX, Highlander, RDX, Accord. Lots of nuances, but interesting list. Yeah, there's a bunch. There's a lot of stuff that is made here in the States already, and that stuff will be totally fine and safe, which is good. And Jordan, thank you for super chat here. I'm assuming the last one of the night. He says school/city buses should have hybrid engines. I agree. It'd be great to see all that stuff kind of get cleaner, and that's why like the electric school bus market is exploding. I mean, Bluebird, they were saying like they have wait lists for years and they can't build them fast enough because everyone wants electric school buses, and it just, yeah, to me, especially as a parent, I'm like, yeah, like, you know, why we having kids breathing in diesel fumes, you know, all the time? Like, if they can avoid it, you know, and they're looking to upgrade school buses anyway, you know, why not? It just seems like a good idea. Hybrid is a nice happy medium if you can't go to the full electric, for sure. And maybe we'll see more of that here in the next 4 years. But I think, yeah, that school buses are one of the best use cases. All those kinds of vehicles, garbage trucks, things like that, where you're plugging them in every night anyway. They have a predictable route. You never have any road trip that springs up on you. Typically, it's just, you know, you're doing the usual thing. That's the perfect use case for, you know, those EV things especially. But all right, let me see. I think we're just about caught up here. And Joe says, what's your all-time favorite cell phone? I mean, I guess I love the Razor, right? You gotta love the Razor. You know, if I wasn't someone that needed a really good camera on my smartphone, I'd probably go for the new foldable Razor. Actually, I think that's super cool, and I'm very jealous of everyone that's got a foldable phone because I'm just in the Apple ecosystem too hard to get out of it for a foldable phone. So I gotta wait till Apple decides to do one in 10 years or whatever. But I love the Razor. And I even having the camera demands that I have with my phone and how much I'm on my phone for my job here, I was like, man, I really want the new Razor. And just the nostalgia. I actually never had the original Razor, strangely enough, because I was also obsessed with having a good camera quality back in 2006 or whatever. I had the sorry, last little tangent. We'll go off for the few final remaining people here. Whenever the Razor was out, I instead had the Sony Ericsson. It was the first smartphone, or not smartphone, the first cell phone to have a 2 megapixel camera. And let me tell you, I thought that I was some pretty cool stuff for him. I was like, man, I can take clearer pictures than everybody with this thing. It was like, it was also the phone that was used in Casino Royale by James Bond. If you know, I figured out the brand and the exact model number of the Sony Ericsson that was used in Casino Royale, and I got that as my one of my first cell phones. I had a few other Nokias and Samsung before that, but I had that Sony, and it's always been about the camera for me. That's always been the top thing. But anyway, yeah, maybe I'll get a Razor someday if they increase the camera quality and or something. Who knows? Anyway, so let me see. Cara says probably doesn't matter. Okay, I see. Talking about this stream here, and but yeah, I think we've just about caught up with everything. Apologies to those of you who I didn't get a chance to answer here. But I see also, just real quick, the Flip Biscuits asking what cars I'm looking forward to coming out this year or next. I talked about that in my end of year wrap up here at the end of 2024 of the cars I'm looking forward to. Definitely check out that if you missed it. I kind of cover that. Cliff Notes is I don't have a whole lot I'm super excited about this year, to be completely honest, but there are a few things that I mentioned. So definitely check out that video if you haven't already. But Little Rockstar says OG Razor phone is good. Yeah, it's just great. It was so awesome. But anyway, thank you all so much for hanging out. Thanks for those of you who stuck with me here after the little connection disruption and all that, and all the tariff talk and everything. I appreciate all the support from all of you. It really means a lot. And yeah, we'll be doing this here most likely on Saturday next week, so everyone can enjoy the Super Bowl. And yeah, look forward to hopefully you guys having a good week here. I got good videos coming out at least to help distract from whatever chaos does or doesn't ensue here with the tariffs and whatever else is in store for us next week. But anyway, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.